I'm Brita, the Questioning Quilter, and today is something totally new. It's a fast and fabulous disappearing quilt that uses both a positive and negative Grecian square. Wait, a what? What's a Grecian square? Well, it's a very old block that doesn't get a lot of play anymore, even though it makes a perfectly respectable quilt, either as all positive, all negative, or both positive and negative blocks together. This quilt is so quick and easy because there's only 12 blocks. I used 6 fat quarters and 1 1/4 yards of white fabric. All the details are down in the description. And as always, stick around to see other layouts and other color choices. Let's get to it. So very quickly, I'm going to show you how to cut this out of a fat quarter. Fat quarters are 18 by 21, and so we're going to trim off the edges. We're going to look at it now. We're going to make 2 strips, 2 3/4 by the entire width. Now we know that fat quarters aren't always perfectly 21 inches, but so long as it's over 20, you'll be fine. So we're going to cut 2 of these strips because we're going to be making 2 Grecian square blocks from this. Now we're going to make 1 square that's 11 by 11. We're doing this because we are going to get 8 half square triangles when we match this block up with a white square. I show how to make that in a previous video, and I'll have a link in the description. The final thing that we need is 1 5-inch square. I like my scraps in nice rectangular pieces, so that's what I'm going to do. So we have 1 5-inch square, an 11-inch square, and 2 2 3/4 inch strips. Now we have 2 colorful strips that are 21 by 2 3/4. We're going to cut the width of the fabric to get 2 of these at 21 and 2 3/4. So we sew together the colored strip and the white strip. Now we're going to trim this off, and we're going to make 4 bar blocks. They are going to be 5 inches by 5 inches. And when you're cutting these, make sure that the center seam is lined up at the 2.5-inch line. Make sure that these are straight. You'll need 4 of these bar blocks for each Grecian square block that you make. Now we add the rest of the pieces. We have the 5-inch square, and we have 4 of these half square triangles. So to make the Grecian square, we're just going to take these bar blocks and we're going to put them so that the white is next to the red. You see this, the light is to the dark, light is to the dark, light is to the dark. And I guess this must be the square part of the Grecian square, because when we put these half square triangles, again, put the dark towards the center. My son looked at this and said, why is it called a Grecian square? This is an octagon, just like a stop sign. And I said, well, I'm not the one who named it. But anyway, this is what it looks like when it's all sewn together. Now we're going to make the negative image, and all that means is we just trade the light and the dark. So where we had the colored piece in the center last time, now we've got the white piece. And we had the light going to the center last time, now we have the dark piece going to the center. And again, you'll notice that it alternates light, dark, light, dark, light. That's the trick here. Now we're also putting the half square triangles so that the light is going to the center. See how this is just the inverse of the block that we just did. We have all of these, and now we have an octagon that's white with the dark on the corners. And when we sew them all together, it looks like this. This is how beautiful the positive and negative Grecian squares come out just by themselves. They're great, just like this, but you know we're not going to stop here. Wait till you see how super easy it is to turn this into a remarkable quilt with just a couple of simple cuts. So now it's time to cut the blocks. We have a positive Grecian square and a negative Grecian square. And the math for the cutting, in case you want to make a block a different size, is you just take the width of the center block, which in this case is 4.5, you divide it by 2, which is then 2 1/4, and we're going to cut 2 1/4 inches from this side seam. Get this lined up pretty good. A vertical cut. And then from this seam, we're going to take 2 1/4 inches again, cut horizontally. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with the negative block. 2 1/4 inches vertically, 2 1/4 inches horizontally. And so you notice each block gets 2 cuts, which leaves you with 4 quarter pieces. Okay, now here's where the magic comes in. I'm going to take 2 of these away. These are 2 sub-blocks are going to stay in their same orientation. The white is to the outside. We're going to take 2 of the quarter Grecian squares of the negative, and we're going to turn them so that you see the half square triangle is pointed to the center. And look at that. We have a diamond spool. Now we're going to do the same over here. So you're going to take your positive image, Grecian square, put it together. See, the white is to the outside. And now we're going to take the negative image and put the dark to the inside. We have 2 diamond spools. All we have to do is sew them together. Now that they're sewn together, they look like this. Amazing diamond spool blocks. Shout out to Terry for coming up with this name. Now I want to point something out that is very important. Because this half square triangle and these bar blocks were the same size, when you cut the bar block and have the seam allowance, they are no longer going to be exactly half. So if you see, this isn't a perfect square, this is a little bit of a rectangle. Now what this means is that when we sew these together, notice how this half square triangle overlaps this block just a little bit. Well, when I saw that, my heart stopped. I had a little mini panic attack. And once I calmed myself down, I said, well, it's just fabric after all, not a big deal. So I made a new block, and I made this a 4.5 inch half square triangle, 4.5 by 5 inch bar block, cut it up, sewed it together, and it came out perfect. Well, about as perfect as I can make it anyway. And so I got ready to cut the fabric out, doing it the new design, and I kept looking back and forth at this one, comparing it. Which one did I like? And it turns out that I personally like this one better. I like this little overlap. Because I see a spool here, I think this just makes the spool a little bit stronger. Here, it's the spools cut in half by the diamonds. And when my husband looked at this, he saw a little robot monster where here's the eyes and here's the jaggedy teeth. But regardless, I like this better. Oh, and one other thing that's really cool is because this overlaps and they don't match up, it makes sewing them together so much easier. But regardless, I know for sure that there are going to be people who can't stand this overlap and would prefer this. And that's perfectly okay. Everybody can do it any way they want. So I have in the description and in my newsletter the instructions to make this block if that's what you want. Now, the only thing left to do for this is to put it on the design wall. Now there's 2 possible ways to line these up on the wall, and I'm going to show you. This one's my favorite. It's also the simplest. All we're going to do is we're going to take them and we're going to line them up just the way we sewed them together. They're all pointing the same direction, kind of going to the upper left. And when we put these together, this is why I think this is so magical. We put these together, and look what happens, a secondary pattern. We have a white spool, and it just keeps going along as we go across on the quilt. You see, here we have another white spool. And once they're all sewn together, you get this gorgeous quilt. What I love best about this is that you have the colorful spools all going one direction, and then you have the white spools with the colorful diamonds in the middle all going the opposite directions. Ooh, how fun is that? Now, as always, let's see how this looks with other color choices. Now, I know a lot of people like simple two-color quilts, which are, for some strange reason, called monochrome quilts. This one is made with 12 blocks, so it would be the same size as I just demonstrated. But in case you wanted to make a larger quilt, here's what it would look like with 24 blocks. For three-color quilts, I like to use red, white, and blue for all of you wonderful people out there making veterans quilts. You could, of course, use any three colors that you like. Simply make half of the blocks red and white and half of the blocks blue and white. The first color arrangement simply alternates red and blue, just like in a checkerboard. But for something a little more graphic, you can make red and blue stripes, kind of like a flag, and very patriotic. Now, before I show you the other way that these blocks can be arranged, I want to ask you a question. I really depend on all of you to direct where this channel goes. I found a couple more interesting blocks that can be made with the cut-up Grecian squares. Now, these will, of course, eventually be made into videos at some point in the future, but I wanted to know, would you like to see all of the videos in a row, kind of like a mini-series? Now, unfortunately, I can only make one video per month, so that would mean 3 or 4 months of just disappearing Grecian squares. Or do you want me to continue jumping around and showing something different each month? I was originally thinking about performing magic on a flying geese block for next month. Oh, so many possibilities. But you tell me. I read and reply to all of your wonderful comments and suggestions. Well, now on to the other layout. The last layout, we had all of the spools leaning the same direction, but what if we alternate them and have them going right, left, right, left? So here's the first one. It's going to the left just like we normally do, but then the one underneath it, we're having go to the right. So the next one, we've got left, right, and notice how we're starting to form a little diamond here. Now, when we keep going out, watch what happens. So we have that one going to the left. This one going to the right, and now we have a diamond here, and we have a negative Grecian square here, and when they're all on the design wall, it looks like this. Now, I'm always amazed how the same spool blocks, just oriented differently, can make such a different looking quilt. It's crazy, right? Now, like before, here are some of the other color choices. This is a monochrome with 12 blocks, just blue and white. So now, here's a monochrome with 24 blocks in case you wanted to make a bigger quilt and wanted to know what it would look like. Now, we can't ever forget the Quilts of Valor people. Again, make half the blocks red and white and half of the blocks blue and white. The first layout just alternates red, and blue. Now this one has red and blue stripes. See them going across? And this one is grouped with 4 blue ones and 4 red ones. And you can see how they kind of form a circle here going around this center diamond. It's always hard for me to decide which color and which layout that I want to sew together. Now, if you're new here, please subscribe and think about checking out one of my other videos. Stay well and happy quilting.